This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. And I got a question today. I got a question from Sean Kelly. What's the best way to bulk on a carnivore diet? I know a lot of you had questions about the carnivore diet, and a lot of you are wondering, can you bulk on a carnivore diet? I always like to utilize quotes to put things into perspective for people. So the great Stan the Rhino Efferding has broken all-time world records in powerlifting and was also a professional bodybuilder, and still to this day, he's about 53, 54 years old. He still looks absolutely amazing. Probably 6% body fat or something, weighing 230 or something. He looks amazing, carved out of stone. But Stan has once said that you can achieve a lot of things without carbohydrates. And one of the things he mentioned was, he said, you know, you could probably get to the top of the Empire State Building without carbohydrates, or you can just simply use the elevator. And he kind of used the elevator as the carbohydrates. Like, look, man, they're probably just going to get you there a little bit faster. They're probably just going to assist with you getting somewhere a little bit faster. And that's the way I view this question right here. Can you bulk on a carnivore diet? Absolutely. How would I suggest that you bulk on a carnivore diet would probably be that you don't necessarily just use a carnivore diet. So I would add in some rice and things like that. But let me stick to the question, and let me stick to the confines of the question. So if you wanted to get big and try to keep body fat down on a carnivore diet, this is where we end up in a tough position, because what we would need to do to stay lean or to look lean would be, we'd have to keep the overall amount of calories neutralized in some way. And one way that we would do that is we would raise protein up and we would bring the fat calories down. So now we would just be eating leaner sources of meat. Certified Piedmontese, you guys hear me talk about it all the time. You can go over there right now, use my code MarkBell. You can get 25% off or 20% off, and it's free shipping on all orders over $100. The reason why I mention them is because they have the leanest steaks in town. They're lean, they're tender, they still taste really good while being at least half the amount of fat oftentimes that you're going to find in other steaks. So bringing your fat calories down is going to be important if we're trying to get bigger and stay lean on a carnivorous style diet. What worked really well for me to get big on a carnivore diet was to bring in some dairy, and to bring in some whole milk, and to bring in some heavy whipping cream and butter and some things like that. The problem is that those things are all really, really high in calories. They're all really, really dense, and you're going to end up putting on a little bit of chub. So you got to make a choice. If you're trying just to look like jacked, if you're trying to look as lean as possible, I would kind of take your question and I would reframe it a little bit, and here's what I would ask. I'm going to kind of ask my own question now, I guess you'd say. But I'm going to take what you asked and I'm going to kind of transform it a little bit and say, hey, what's the best way to utilize the carnivore diet to get jacked and tan, okay? So we're going to utilize the carnivore diet, but we're going to just tweak it a little bit and just kind of change the dialogue of what it is. And we're going to call it a meat-based diet. This now gives us the implementation. We're now allowed to have some carbohydrates. We're now allowed to bring in some rice. We're now allowed to bring in some fruit. You can look fantastic on a carnivore diet, and if you wanted to, my suggestion would be to stick to lean meats. You'll get in great shape and you'll feel amazing. At a certain point, you'll have to make sure that you have enough fat in there, though, to where your hormones aren't getting impacted negatively. For most of you, I would never suggest under 60, 70 grams, somewhere in there, depending on your size and so forth. But if you're trying to look jacked, if you're trying to look like a bodybuilder, if you're trying to look really lean and in really good shape, I would suggest that you just do what I'm doing right now. I eat tons of meat every single day. I eat certified Piedmontese beef. I eat chicken, I eat egg whites. I don't eat ground beef as much because ground beef has more fat in it. If I do have ground beef, I get the 96.4 or 94.6, whatever it is, from Piedmontese. I get that beef. I'm not eating like as much bacon and whole eggs and things like that anymore, although I will mix in some whole eggs here and there with my egg whites because I don't want my fat calories to be too low. I'll also utilize some butter here and there, and I'll also utilize a slice or two of bacon sometimes in my pan to cook my egg whites, you know, to kind of lube up the pan a little bit and make sure the eggs don't stick, plus adds a little bit of flavor, and it's only adding a couple of grams of fat to the whole picture. So my suggestion would be go with these really lean sources of protein, get your protein up, go minimum, no exceptions, minimum 1 gram per pound of body weight, 1 gram per pound of body weight, or you can go up to about 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh, you know, if you weigh like 200 pounds or something like that, you're probably going to have around 300 grams of protein. For me, I weigh about 240 and I'm eating about 400 grams of protein. It's not going to hurt you to have extra. Protein does not damage the kidneys. That is false information. There's been a lot of research to follow it up and to prove that that's a myth. In addition to that, increasing protein is not going to increase body fat. In fact, the reverse has been shown, and this is why I'm so obsessed with this concept of protein leveraging and why I'm sharing it out so much. So not only does protein help to build muscle mass, not only does protein not have much of a negative impact on you when you overconsume it, but guess what else it does? It helps to burn body fat. And animal proteins are superior when it comes to a lot of this because they have more complete amino acids. Unfortunately, when it comes to veganism and vegetarian and things like that, there's just not enough good information out there on this at the moment. And hopefully we see some changes, because some people don't like to eat meat for ethical reasons, and I support that. I support whatever it is that you want to do that makes you feel good, that gets you through your day. I'm in support of it, as long as it's not harming other people. But when it comes to vegetable proteins, they're usually kind of cruder sources of protein, and it's going to be a little bit tougher to have those sources of protein have the same level of impact or have the same efficiency. So that's something to keep in mind and something to consider. Whey protein isolate can help quite a bit. Hydrolyzed whey protein is fantastic. Whey protein concentrate is okay, but not as good in my opinion. But anyway, whey protein is another way to help get you there. I'll eat low-fat yogurt, sometimes non-fat Fage yogurt, and also I'll have some cottage cheese here and there. Cheese in general, I don't eat anymore. A little bit too much fat per calorie, but sometimes I'll throw it in some foods here and there just to give the food a little bit more flavor. But I think a lot of times when people are thinking about, you know, like, a lot of times people say they want to get bigger and they want to get like leaner. But let me just kind of explain to you that if you get leaner, you'll just look better. You'll look bigger. A lot of times when I get leaner, I could lose, if I lost like 6 or 8 pounds and just had a little less water and just kind of looked like I needed to eat a cheeseburger, a lot of times people will go, oh my God, you look jacked, because like the veins are coming out a little bit more. And so just getting leaner will help a lot. I know that this question was specifically a little bit more about bulking, but my suggestion is you don't really necessarily utilize a carnivore diet to bulk, and the question was about bulking, but also not putting on body fat. If it was straight up for bulking, I would say bulk the way that I did, utilize the carnivore diet, and add in a lot of dairy and eat a lot of fat. And you can still be full carnivore and eat animal products and go that full route. But in my opinion, you would be better off shifting into something slightly different so that we didn't add any body fat at all, and in fact, maybe lower body fat, because again, the protein calories are really high, the fat calories are kind of modest, and the carbohydrates are also kind of modest. And carbohydrates, we got rice, potatoes, fruit, vegetables. I'm not sure if I said oatmeal already, but there you go. I mean, that's pretty much your carbohydrate sources. Something to keep in mind with carbohydrates is you want your carbohydrate sources to not accompany much fat, and that only leaves you usually with natural carbohydrate sources. If you really start to think about it, you're like, oh shit, okay. The only time there's like carbs and fats together is sometimes in nuts, and nuts are fine and you can eat them here and there, but you also want to be a little conscious of those things. Whenever you start to mix fat and carbohydrates together, it just makes overeating that much easier. So it's always something to kind of be on the lookout for and pay attention to. But if you're going to overeat on anything, we're going to do so on protein, because it's only going to help us to gain more muscle mass, and in a lot of cases even burn more body fat. Thank you so much for the questions. Keep the questions coming. If you have any questions on what I just said right there, you're confused about it in any way, ask them in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're sharing this information out with other people. It really helps. It really makes a big difference. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.